Welcome to our second video looking at widget creation in Apollo, our theme that integrates ApostropheCMS as a backend and Astro as a front end. In the last video, we looked briefly at what widgets are, the widgets available in our Apollo project, and how widgets are mapped between the back and front ends. In this video, we're going to take a closer look, a deeper dive into the row widget as a simple example of how layout widgets were created for the project. So layout widgets basically are containers that hold other widgets. So what do I mean by that? Again, we did look at this in the last video, but let's take a look again. And here I am at the Apollo homepage. And so if we go ahead, we're already logged in. We're already able to edit here. So if we go ahead and within this area, say we're going to add more content, and in this case, select the rows widget, we can go ahead and pick any of these. Let's just go ahead and pick, say, 2 equal columns. Okay, so now we have our 2 columns. If we want to, we can edit them directly here, or we can save this rows layout, and we can see what it's going to look like, basically the layout that it's going to have on the page. So this rows widget is just a way to contain additional area fields for additional widgets. And then we can go ahead and, go ahead and add an image into here. Lander, and then on the side, go ahead and add some rich text. Do whatever little editing we want to there. Oops. So this is going to allow our content managers to create complex page structures all without having to write any code. They can just drop these widgets in and create any kind of layout that they want. So say now below that we wanted 3 equal columns that each one is going to go ahead and get an image or something like that. Okay, so now we understand a little bit about what the layout widgets let us do. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the backend implementation was created. Opening up our backend folder, again, for the ApostropheCMS project, most of the code is going to be in the modules folder. We're going to look in the next video at an example of where we've moved some of that code out. Actually, I think in this one. So most of our code is going to be in the modules folder. We'll also take a look at helpers that we've moved out of the modules folder. But for now, let's go ahead and focus on that rows widget. So you can see here, we have created a folder within modules since this is a project level widget, project level module. We've created a folder and named it rows-widget. So that's the convention to give all of your widgets a -widget name. I should say that if you have a large number of widgets for a project, we can also create a single folder in here and name it something like widgets. And then, whoops, put that in the wrong place. Move that over into modules. We could create a single folder named widgets and put all of our widgets inside of that. And then what we would have to do is in our main app.js here that controls our ApostropheCMS project. So then what we would do here in our app.js is go ahead and pass in at the top level nested module subdrs true. So just for example here. True. And then within the widgets folder itself, within the modules, we would need to create basically a mapping that resembles this module's object here that would tell the backend about all of our widgets. So that's one way that you can use to neaten your overall project directory up and make things a little bit more organized when you get a large number of widgets. And you can read more about that in the documentation. Looking now into the actual rows widget again. Within here, the first thing that we're doing is we're importing this getWidgetGroup. from one of our helpers. And I'm going to come back to this. This is just a way that we can organize the project in order to neaten things up and to keep, especially when we're going to be using areas throughout a project, keep all of our different areas unified and the same throughout the project. So that way, if we go ahead and add a new widget, we don't have to search through the entire project for every single area and add it to that individual area, that widget to that area schema field. And instead, we can just update the helper and all of our areas will then get that new widget. As I touched on briefly in the last video, pretty much all of your project level widgets are going to extend the ApostropheCMS widget type module. So what that's going to do is it's going to give your individual widget instance access to all of the methods that are available within the core widget type module. And so this provides a whole framework of different things that widget can then access. So below the extend property, we're going to have an options object where we can pass in a number of different parameters, number of different key value properties that control how the widget is displayed to the content editor when they want to select it within an area. So first up, we have a label. Below that, we have an icon property. This icon is going to be displayed when the editor, or excuse me, when the preview menu is not being used. So this is going to display to the left of the label from the drop-down selection menu that the editor content manager will get if the preview menu hasn't been enabled. And then the next two are used within that preview menu, the description and the preview image. The description is going to appear here. If we go ahead and add content, we can see that the description is right here below the label, the rows layout label. So that's the description there. And then the preview image is that image that is shown within the preview menu. So this says just SVG. The reason why is because the preview image, the value for the preview image property is the file type that we're providing as the preview image. And Apostrophe is going to expect to find that image file within the public folder. So in this case, we're passing preview.svg here, and it expects it to be an SVG. So we could also pass, of course, a PNG or a JPEG or whatever. Okay, so that's going to control the display of our widget to our content manager. Claps that down. So below that, now we have our fields. So in the case of the rows layout, what we're allowing the content manager to do is to select how to divide the content across the particular row. So basically, how many columns each row will have. And so here we're giving them a fixed set of choices. You could extend this to a greater number of choices, or if you really wanted to go crazy, you could even go ahead and make this more customized where you can calculate out and maybe ask the user how many rows, or excuse me, how many columns they want as a number from 1 to say 12 or 1 to 6, and then have other choices, other schema fields that allow them to select the width of those columns. We're also passing in some styling. So we've got a max width select. We've got a spacing that sets the spacing between the columns, some alignment options, and then we get down to the actual column content. So in this case, again, we're giving them, the content manager a selection of up to 4 columns. Each of those columns needs an area, and that area needs to have a unique name. So there's a couple of different ways you can approach this, but in the row layout, what I elected to do is to just go ahead and give each of these different columns a name based on if they were columns 1, 2, 3, or 4. So again, you could do this programmatically, but this is how I approached it. So each of these different columns now are going to be of the type of area. They're going to get a label. And then we're passing in for the options where we would normally pass in a list of our widgets. We're passing in this getWidgetGroups helper function. And in that getWidgetGroups helper function, we're saying that we do want to include the layouts but we're going to get rid of the grid layout. Remember, as I sort of pointed out in the previous video, we don't want the editor to create some kind of layout where they have a column inside of a grid inside of a column that gets a little bit crazy or looks a little bit broken and is hard to style for responsiveness. So we're just excluding that particular layout. So before I jump over to this helper function, let's take a quick look at how we regulate which columns, which areas are added or shown to the content manager. So basically, column 1 content is always going to be displayed. They're always going to have at least one column within their row. But what if they select 2 or more? So going down to the next one down, column 2 content, we can see that it has much the same setup up here, but it also has this if block. So the if conditional block is going to control when that particular schema field is shown to the content editor. In this case, I want it to display under a variety of conditions. So basically, I'm passing in this additional $or operator here with an with an array of all the cases where I want this to be displayed. So I want it to be displayed if the column layout schema field here, column layout schema field, is 2 equal columns. So 2 equal, that's the value. 3 equal, 4 equal. So basically all cases where it's not just a single column. And again, we're passing in the schema field name and we're passing in the value, not the label that's shown within the select field to the content manager, but the value itself. If we drop down to the column 4 content, we can see that the only time that we want this displayed is if our column layout schema has a value of 4 equal. All right, so now we've got an idea, a pretty good idea of how the user or how we're setting up on the back end to allow the content manager to select for these different rows. Let's go ahead and switch to the front end. Let's just close all this down, close all that down. We're not going to save. And let's go ahead to the front end. So within our Astro project, we're going to drill down into the source folder. And within the source folder, all of our widgets are going to be in the widget folder. So let's look at the rows widget. Again, this gets mapped to through the index.js in our widgets folder. This rows widget component gets mapped to the basically when apostrophe calls for a rows widget. Looking in the rows widget. So up top, skip over the JS docs block. Up top, we are bringing in all of the data for that particular widget from the Astro props. And so all of this is going to get passed in as a single object widget. So we're bringing that in from the Astro props, and we're also bringing in our Apos area helper. Again, the Apos area helper is going to get passed in the all of the widgets from each of the all of the widgets from an area, and it's going to go ahead and process those and figure out the correct templates to use to display each of the different widgets within the area. So now below this, within this front matter, I am doing some calculations to add classes and figure out what areas should be included within the particular layout. So if it's a single column, then the only area I'm bringing in is the column 1 content. Whereas if it's 2 equal, I have two different areas that I'm bringing in: the column 1 content and the column 2 content. And I do this basically for each of the different possible selections that are present in that dropdown on the back end. And then we're also going ahead and making some objects to be able to handle our spacing and our alignment that I also showed you as being present in the back end. So next up, we're just adding some setting some variables so that we know what our layout is. So from the layouts, we're picking either if a column layout is specified within the widget data, we're getting that, and we're pulling in our layout object from the object we just created up here. We're pulling that in and setting it to the current layout, or we're giving ourselves a fallback of 2 equal. Same with spacing and so on and so forth. But just the important bit here is we're getting all of this from the widget data object. And then we're just building up based on our column classes and such, our full chain of Bulma styling that we're adding to each column. Okay, so now in our markup below the front matter, so here's the fence that closes out the front matter, we're creating a section and we're adding some Bulma styling to that using classes. And we're also adding in some ARIA accessibility sort of information. And below that, it's just pretty much a standard Astro component where we're mapping, we're iterating over the current layout areas, that object that was just created, and then outputting one or more areas onto the to the page, surrounded by the classes that we assigned in the front matter. You can see here then that each area then is passed into the Apos area helper with the data for that particular area name. So here's why we need to have a unique name for each of those areas so that can be passed in here through area name to the Apos area. So that's what the front end of the rows widget looks like. So you've got kind of a good idea of how we go from the back end to the front end. So the last thing that I want to cover really quickly is going back to the back end. Close all this up. Close that up. Going back to the back end, we have that helper that we didn't discuss yet. So within the rows widget, we wanted a way to keep all of our areas with the basically with the same widgets, make all of our areas, make it easy to update the widgets when we create new ones for all the areas and such. So we have this getWidgetGroups helper function. This is being imported from our lib folder. So if we open that up, lib helpers, and look here under areawidgets.js, we can see that we have a couple of different things being exported. So for the widgets group, we have our layout widgets and our content widgets. So within the layout widgets, we have just these two, grid layout and rows layout. We are specifying, because we're using the widget preview menu, we are specifying the number of columns that we want to display our widgets in. So in this case, there's only 2 of them. So I chose to display them in 2 columns. And we're giving a label to that section of the preview menu. So let's just take a look at that back over in Chrome. And if we go ahead and add content, what we can see is that we have 2 columns for our layouts, for our layout widgets, and it's labeled as layout. Back over into Apollo. So for our content widgets, we have all of our different content widgets I pointed out. So the apostrophe image, video, rich text. The rich text itself is getting some extra options about what's present within the different toolbar menus. And then the rest of our different widgets are here. So in this case, I'm specifying that they display in columns of 3 across each with a label of content. Scrolling down just a little bit, if we look here, we have our actual helper function that we're using. And basically all this is doing is it's just using these defined widget groups and mapping and then returning the ones that we haven't excluded from our individual area layout, our individual area schema field function call. But here at the bottom, what we're returning is 2 things. We're returning those groups that we just sorted through, and we're returning one additional property that will end up being in the area options, and that's expanded true. This is what is going to go ahead and power that side opening widget preview menu. So if this was not here, if this was to be commented out, we can go ahead and save that. We should in the back end go ahead and regenerate, I believe. Let's switch back over into Chrome. And go ahead and add a default page. So I changed that. It'd probably just be easier. Well, no, we can see it here too. If we go ahead and reload. So now when we go ahead to add content, instead of a side menu coming open, we instead have this menu that we can select from where we're displaying the icon that we specified and the label. And so this will work just like the preview menu. Some people prefer this as being less disruptive to the overall workflow. I tend to like the preview menu. But again, going back over into the code, that's controlled by this expanded true option being passed along with the groups into the area options. So just to recap, much like with templates, for the widgets, you have a back-end schema that is created. The module extends the core @CMS widget type module and provides all of the different configuration and customization functions for the particular widget. On the front end, we create a standard Astro component that gets data in from the widgets of the widgets object from the Astro props. And depending on your widget, you may or may not also bring in the Apos area helper to help you translate content within areas. Of course, if we weren't using a layout widget, if we were using just a widget to put content directly to the page, we wouldn't need that helper. In the Apollo project, we have our widgets grouped into a helper. This also could be used in a plain apostrophe project. Basically, what it allows you to do is to be able to control what widgets are available to your different areas from a central location. So as we add more widgets to this project, we don't have to maintain a whole variety of different area schema fields that need to be updated. We can update it in just one place. In the next video, we're going to dive into our content widgets. Specifically, we're going to look at how we add JavaScript, how we add that interactivity on the client side to our widgets to power things like the slideshow or the video widgets custom web component. So we'll see you in the next video.